Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. Now, I haven't done one of these for a little while. It's been a little bit delayed, just been too busy with other bits and pieces. But I do have the next section of the Batmobile. I believe we're doing the seats today, but you'll notice that the Bat Beacon is sat there. Now, there is a reason for that, and that's because we have the Bat Beacon from Mlike. So we'll get that one fitted as well. So with all that said, let's get into it. Let's get building.
Welcome to the workshop, tools in the light. Screws and glue, they're holding it tight. Piece by piece, it's a builder's delight. Making dreams in the still of the night. Let's get into it, let's get building now. Put it all together, I'll show you how. Screw by screw and a little glue too. Welcome to the workshop, it's waiting for you.
Right, so we're going to kick off with issue 69. And as per usual, nice flick through the magazine. And just a reminder, we do get a magazine with every stage of the build. So here are our parts this time. And we're just building up this section, and we're actually going to be adding that all together to the floor pan. So I've got all the sections to hand, as you can see, and we'll get that all together. And then by the end of it, we will have this. And we've got a locating peg there for the seatbelt as well. Right, so not a great deal of parts this time around, but we do need this piece from the previous issue. And we're going to start off with this clear piece. And that's just going to slot in at the back here, like so. Going to secure that in place with an AFP screw. Now, not something you're going to want to over tighten because you end up cracking the plastic, but that is in there like so. Next, we're going to take our fire extinguisher, and we're going to slot those two parts together just to push fit, like so. And we've also got this gauge as well, which is just going to slot into that hole at the top there, like so. Might have been nice to have a little decal on there or something. I'm sure someone will come up with something for that to give it a little bit more detail. But basically that's then going to go onto this plate like this, and then we're going to take this and place it just here. I'm going to just sandwich that plate in the middle like so. I'm going to screw that from the back using a TP screw. So that's looking just like that. Next up, we're going to be adding that to this piece. That's just going to sit over the two locating holes there. Get those lined up, and then we've got two AP screws that will hold that in place. So one in there, and one just going in there. Now making sure that's fully pushed down. Obviously, I've got these brilliant mats from Mlike, so it does take a little bit more of a squash just to get that pushed down all the way, because obviously you're compressing that material, but it looks absolutely perfect. And with that piece on there, we're then going to take this piece, put it on here, obviously making sure not to trap our seat belts. And if you've missed the previous video about these mats and the carpets and the floor mats, do check out the video. I'll try and pop it up in the corner if I remember when editing this. But do check them out. They look absolutely fantastic. I do love these Robin and Batman mats. So with that in place, we're just going to make sure that it is fully in the right place. We just need to line up the holes underneath. And then we've got 3 AP screws to hold this in place. So one there, and one just up there. Obviously, when putting it down, obviously you've got all these levers and things on the back there. So just make sure that you're not putting any pressure on it. Obviously, what I'm doing is just holding it up in the air. Again, just make sure that's all lined up. And final one, just going in here. So we now have that looking just like that. And then also we've got these belts. And what we need to do is we've got a little peg on there. And that's just going to slot into the holes there. Do the same thing for this side. Again, just lining up that hole and then pushing that in. I'll just twist it around because the instructions do show it this way, so make sure it is that way around. And that is all to do in that stage. So this next stage, I'm going to actually bundle together with 71 because we're basically building a single seat out of both of these. So I'll give you a flick through both magazines now, and then we'll get into the build. So as you can see, we've got the start of one seat, and we've got a little bit of belt as well that we need to attach in. And then we're really not doing anything with the seat, as you can see. It's just put that belt in, so that's why I'm bundling this with the next stage. So 71. You can see we've got the seat frame and the seat base. So put the seat together like this, and then the seat will actually go in and be secured. So here we have the parts for issue 70 and 71. Just bring up our floor pan again. And we'll take our seat belt. And that's just simply going to go into that point just there. Now, it might be an idea to just put some glue on the back of that. Just make sure that doesn't come out. Now, obviously, I've put the Mike Lane mats on here, which means that peg isn't going as far in as it was designed to. So a little bit of glue on there will certainly help that. But I would say definitely glue it from the back if you've got Mike Lane's carpets, because obviously you don't want any glue going on these really, really nice carpets. So that was it for stage 70. So we'll move on to 71. Right, so we've got this seat and the frame. Now, I've seen several people break these tabs off. Someone I know said, try putting this in some hot water to make it a little bit more flexible. And it is a rubberized material, so in theory that should work. I'm going to try it without for the minute, and then if I break all the tabs on this, I'll do it on the second one and see if it's any easier. But I can do a bit of a comparison this way. So try getting those two bottom ones in first. And then that top one. Well, this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, trying to get the other side done. Because there's not a great deal of flex in this frame. So let's try and get this top one in. So let's shove that corner in there. Right, so that's the top ones in. That's fairly simple. We've got those two bottom ones in, that one in, so it's only this one left to do. Let's see how well I do. Okay, so that's that one. There we go. No tabs broken. I think that's a fairly successful way of doing it. Seemed to work. I just might have been lucky with that. But that's what our seat is looking like. We've got these two little cushions, and they're just going to go in there and in there, like so. I think they're both the same. So I'm just going to sit those in like so. And then we need to use some AP screws to secure this in place. So we get our back. Try and get all these holes lined up. We're going to use, as I say, some AP screws, 6 of them, to hold that seat together. Nope, not AP. Read that wrong. AIP screws. So I'm just going to squeeze the bottom of the seat together. And we get these middle ones in first, and that'll hold everything in place, hopefully. So as you can see, I mean, if those tabs were to break, it means you probably wouldn't get a couple of these screws in because they're screwing through that tab. But theoretically, you could probably just glue this base to this seat, and the frame will just stay in the middle. So you've got those ones going in there. They go in at a bit of an angle. So we've got those 6 in there like that. And then we're just going to put this on the 2 locating holes there, making sure your seat belts are out of the way. And then 2 AP screws will hold that in place. Again, just want to be careful when, obviously, putting this upside down. You don't want to break anything off that you've got in place there. And now you don't really want to scratch up the nice bit of chrome you've got there. So that's our seat belt in. Now, I don't know if these actually go together. They don't. But that would have been nice to have those, have a little slot or something for them to go together. But no such luck. And that's all there is to do in that stage. Now, pretty much the same thing. We're just going to do the passenger side. Again, I'm going to bundle these two together, and we're pretty much doing the exact same thing. So flick through 72. And as you can see, pretty much the same parts. We've got to put the seatbelt in, and we leave the seat to one side. And then 73. We have the frame and the base, and basically the same thing, and we're placing that in as well. So first things first, we have the seatbelt just going in there. Now that one's actually fallen out, so I suggest gluing them would be a good idea. Although that has now just clicked into place nicely, I think. No, still too loose. I'm going to glue that one. So I'll glue that in a minute. They are still accessible, as you can see, once the seat's in. So I'll glue that at the end. Right, so that's that one done. And then obviously we now have the seat to do for 73. Right, so it was reasonably successful with the first seat, so I'm not even going to try the hot water technique that I was going to potentially try if it was going to be a pain. So I'm just going to try doing this again. So doing the top ones first. Just like that. And then I tuck this corner of the seat in. Like that. And then we've got this one to do, like so. And then just case of, I think it's just easier just to fold that up like so. And then just pop it over like that. Now you can guarantee that if I hadn't seen other people struggle with this and break all those clips, I would have probably just done the same thing and broken it, but hindsight is a brilliant thing. So, not boasting, but I didn't break a single clip. And I can only say that's down to knowing about it beforehand. No other reason other than probably luck as well. So, I'm going to put the cushioning in. So we've got those two pads in there, and then we've got the back going on as well. And then the AIP screws, I'm going to secure that. And again, just going to do these center ones first. Just squeeze the rails together, or the frame. So that's all of those in. And then we're going to take our seat, again, not trapping our seat belts, line it up with the two holes. And then we have the two AP screws to hold that in place. Right, so that's both seats in, looking just like that. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. And that is all we have to do in those two stages. Right, so last stage, issue 74 of this build pack. Continuing on the cockpit, it's the rear bulkhead we have now. So it looks like we've got rear section to build up there, and we've got a little speaker or something, or interior light. And then we'll have that at the end of it. Right, so first thing we're going to do with this bulkhead is on these points here, we're just going to put these little brackets. We're going to hold those in place with two CP screws each. That's the first one in. That's the second one. And that's the third one. So we've got all of those in like so. Next up we have the ejector pins. And they are simply just going to slot in to that section just there. 1 and 2. Now again, might be worth gluing those. We're then going to have this piece going in like so. And then utilising the brackets we've attached, we're going to use some CP screws to hold that in place along there. Again, when having it upside down, just be cautious of all the bits and pieces that are attached. Yeah, so that's the last one just going in there. So that's our back wall on and in place like that. We've got our ejector pins just there. Next up, we have our interior light. I think this is. Right, so with this piece like this, that's just going to sit under there like so. And then we've got 2 AP screws to hold that in place. So just holding it in place like so. That's 1. And 2. And then we're going to take this piece, which is being called an interior light. And that's going to go like that. And then this is going to sit on top of here like so. I'm going to use 2 more AP screws to secure that in place. That's 1. And 2 just going in there. And that is all to do in that stage. And that's what our cockpit is looking like. Looking very, very nice. Especially with the Mike Lane carpets and mats there. Looking absolutely fantastic. Now, speaking of Mike Lane, obviously, I did say we're going to be looking at the bat beacon. So, let's do that now. Right, so here we have the bat beacon. And we've got all the parts out. And we have, as usual, a QR code on the back there, just to scan for the instructions. So, haven't looked at the instructions yet myself. Just looking at what we've got. We've got some cables. We've got some sticky pads. We have a couple of circuits. It looks like got a little chip on that one, and this looks to be potentially just a load of connectors. And then we have the bat beacon itself with a big sticker on it saying fragile. So make sure you look after that one. So let's get the instructions up and we'll see what we need to do. Right, so I've got the instructions up on the laptop. So we've got to start off with a little bit of disassembly. So first thing we're going to be doing is removing the 4 AM screws. Now, I've only got to do 3 because it looks like I missed doing 1 previously. So those 4 will need to come out first. So that's the AM screws out. Now we do need to feed this cable back through that hole. Just like so. I'm going to place that to one side. Now we need to remove the 2 AM screws from the beacon cover. One, 2. And then that comes out. Now we need to remove the LED and the chrome beacon. Put that to one side. And we do need to remove the LED from this. Like that. So we no longer need the LED. So we're going to put that to one side. We then need to remove the two ACM screws that we have here. That's those two out. And then this should come out. And obviously, when removing that, you don't want to lose the LEDs you've got there, or they're not LEDs at the moment, but you don't want to lose those bits. So the first thing we're going to need is this. Now, as you can see, it does say fragile on it. So this is where you do need to use some caution. And that's what we have. Now you can see we've got 4 LEDs on there, and we've got a few on the top here as well. And that is what that is looking like. Now, you want to be very careful when handling this. Obviously, it's pretty much paper thin, so it would be easy enough to tear if you mishandle it. Now, this is going to sit basically in here. So that's going to sit over those 2 holes for the screws, you can see, like that. And then we've got the back beacon sitting just like that for the moment. Now we can replace this piece, which will hold that section in again. So just push that down. Again, just want to make sure that your circuit there is in the right place and you're not about to put a screw through it or anything like that. So as you can see, that's both of those screws now in, and those are now secured in place again. Next up, we need a component from this bag. And that is this piece here. It has some self-adhesive on the back, so we need to remove that. Right, so with our 3M tape exposed, we now need to open up this little socket. And to do that, it's just a case of flipping open the little door. Now, obviously, we have the back beacon a little bit loose at the moment. So just going to pull that up a little bit. And we basically want this connector to go into here. So to do that, I'm just going to lift it up gently and insert that all the way into that connector. And then we'll just close that connector, like so. And then with it like that, being cautious of that cable that we now have in place, we want to attach that like that using that 3M tape. So that's now fully in there, and that's now stuck down like so. Next thing I'm going to be doing is basically pushing this beacon into that section there, like so. Also, you want to try and make sure that it is facing flat, so it's facing upright when it's in there. Now, the thing that's going to help with that is this piece, and that's just going to sit back in where it was. Obviously, you don't want to force this because you don't want to rip that cable. And then with that silver piece in there, we're going to take our bracket and just basically sit that back over and secure it with the same screws we took out a minute ago. One. Now I've not tightened that one fully down yet, just so I can get this one lined up. Get that one in place. And then we get this one in place as well. So that's in there like so. Now we're going to need one of our cables. And it's this black cable we want. Now just checking. Looks like both ends are identical, possibly. They are identical, but they have the cables in a different order. So we just need to make sure that we have the right one going in here. We basically want the grey cable to be this side. So that's going to go in just like so. Now I'm holding the board because you don't obviously want to press against this and tear that ribbon cable. So just holding that in place and just using tip of my nail just to ensure that cable goes all the way in. So with that in like so, we're just going to route this cable along here. Now the instructions have got a little bit of a bend in it, so it's actually running like so, and then we're just going to use a bit of tape to secure that in place. And Mike has supplied some tape, so just ensuring that goes over like that, and then using a bit of tape there, we've got that running like so. Now that cable needs to run through this hole. We just need to refit that using the 4 AM screws that we took out. Right, so last one of those going in there. Now I did raid my box of spares and I did manage to find another AM screw, so got that one in there as well. So that is that, done like so. Now for the moment we don't have the bat circuit, so we will be connecting this to the stock PCB. So we do need this little breakout board, and we're going to need these 3 cables. Right, so with our 3 cables and our breakout box, we're going to need the communication cable from the beacon, which is this one, and that's going to go into this slot just here. Again, they only go in one way, so don't force it. It should go in nice and gently, and then just needs a little push to secure it. So that's looking like that. Yeah, you can't quite see the grey cable was on this side where it says PWR. Next we need our yellow and black cable. That's going into the slot labeled number 1. We've got number 1 just here. So we'll just push that one in like so. Then we have the red and black cable, this one. And this one is going into the slot labeled power, which is this one. Again, they only go in one way round, so like that. And then for the next bit, we're actually going to need the chassis because that's where the circuit board is. So here's the chassis. And we need to disconnect the battery box from the circuit board. Now I've already done that because I was playing with a bit of a power mod on my own. Now we need to get our splitter cable, and that's going to connect like so. And then from this breakout board, the red and black cable needs to plug into the splitter as well. Again, just double check that it is the correct way around. So we now have that. Next we need the yellow and black cable, and we need to find socket L on here. Now, if you remember, we have L on this little extension lead, so I'm just going to use that one. And I've just noticed it's already lit up. Can you see that? That looks amazing. There is power in this, and of course you've got the switch in the on position. So what I'll do is I'll just turn that off for the moment. Actually, you know what? I've disconnected that switch, I believe. Or have I? No, I haven't. So that's just getting power direct from the batteries, actually, thinking about it. So it's not the switch. Just as a precaution, I am going to disconnect that battery connector for the moment, just in case something goes wrong when connecting this up. So the yellow and black cable is going to go into cable L, or directly into the socket. Again, make sure you've got that the right way around. The end of the splitter is going to go into socket B, which is the battery. So let's get unplugged in. And then the final connector there, obviously, is what I've just pulled out, which is the battery. So now plug that in, like so. Now it might be worth just leaving the battery until last, and you saw it light up. So there's obviously power flowing through this, etc. So maybe just a bit of caution when connecting it all up. So just turn the switch on, and you saw that light up. Right, so let's see if we can test this. Let me just turn off a couple of lights, and then should be able to see it a little bit better. Right, so let's do a bit of a test. So let's first of all just check that the lights are still working, which they are. Let's just move that over like that. Now, let's try the beacon. And that's lit up nicely, as you can see. Let me just turn off this other light. And you can see that the side lights there are lighting up as well. Oops, on that one. Now, apparently, if we keep pressing this, it will change the mode of the beacon. I'll see that mode, it's just got the beacon and not the little side lights there. Then we've got a pulsing one. Let's put those on. I think there's like a presentation mode as well. So I think that goes through several different flashes and things. But looks like for each time you turn it on and off, it gives you a different style of lighting. But that looks absolutely fantastic. I think the batteries are dying in my remote control. I don't know if anyone else had the same issue. Actually, I found this remote control to be pretty poor. One, I had to glue it together because the clips just broke when I put it together. But even like the button presses and things are not always like immediate. And then I'm sure this is sending 2 presses at times. So I, for one, cannot wait until the bat circuit comes out and I can get rid of this because this just doesn't seem to work very well at all. And I know other people have had problems with this remote control. Also with the Skyline. They seem to be pretty much the same controls, very bespoke, non-bespoke I should say, just very generic remote controls, and just not very good, just made to a budget. So, but that'll be getting rid of when the bat circuit comes, and as I say, I really can't wait. But for now, that bat beacon looks absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to hit the like button below and give us a massive thumbs up. So that is the interior looking a lot better now with those seats in. And obviously I've had to do a bit of a mock-up like this to show off that brilliant bat beacon. If you want to get one for yourself, do check out the links in the description below. They'll be there, and you can check out all the other mods that Mike does for all the various other models that are around at the moment. Obviously, if you do want to get the Batmobile for yourself, I don't know if it's still currently available, but again, the links will be in the description below, so do check those out as well. But as for this one, this is looking absolutely fantastic. It probably won't be too long until I have another video for you, mainly because I was so delayed on doing this one. The next one is actually already in the post and winging its way to me, so that'll probably be coming up on the channel in the next week or so. So do check out that. So if you want to see how this one progresses or anything else that goes on in the workshop, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell for notifications, and that way you won't miss out on future videos. Until the next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.